Welcome to the discussion of not north of Eden, not south of East. What? That. Could start
South
over.
of East. South of East.
Go ahead. You know what? Screw it. Let's get that in. You know, people will love the fact that I just messed up and screwed up an intro.
Okay. All right. Well,
Yeah.
we're off to the races. So yeah, we're talking about John Steinbeck's East of Eden. We've talked about John
Magnum
Steinbeck.
Opus.
Yeah, his magnum opus, supposedly. We've talked about John Steinbeck on the podcast before. We all read something different. Funnily enough, the guy who read East of Eden at the time is not here, Luke. So it's just us. But we took his
Praise.
recommendation, his praise to heart. We read this book, and we also really liked it.
I think this is probably the great American novel. If it's not a contender, it is up there. I think it might be number one. I don't know if it's too soon to say, but it's definitely in the conversation about being the best American novel ever. Looking at Pierce. Already?
I mean, I really like this book. I may even push to say that I love this book, but I don't know if I can give it the great American novel title when I have not even read Moby Dick yet, which is like the one that people point to.
Okay.
So,
right.
And I also think that although I think this book is better than Grapes of Wrath, I think the Grapes of Wrath fits the thematic and symbolic like parts of the like whole great American novel thing better than this book does. Even though I think that this is a better novel than the Grapes of Wrath.
Okay. Well, yeah, that is fair. I feel like it's got shot down there. I thought you were going, hell yeah.
No. I out of the ones that I have read, I'm still on board with and I liked it less than this one. I'm still on board with Cormac McCarthy's oh my god, the Western
Blood
one.
Meridian.
Blood Meridian. Blood Meridian. I'm actually still on board with that one being the GAN, the Great American Novel.
Very
even
different.
though I enjoyed this book more than McCarthy's.
Okay. It is a completely different book.
Yes.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, here we are. It is East of Eden is a very spiritual book. It is very much about I would say, even though I wouldn't consider it the great American novel, I think it fits into kind of an American culture, an American cultural history, and an American lexicon very well because of its biblical kind of nature. We have a history of evangelical movements in this country. A very broad history of them, just different Christian movements of sorts. And yeah, I think I'm sure we'll talk more about the themes in a minute, but I feel like one of the things that I like about it, and also I think that it would be fine to criticize if you didn't like it, is that everything that Steinbeck is trying to say in this book is very on the nose.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's very blunt.
He's very blunt. There is symbolism, obviously, but nothing that he's saying is very well hidden. There's not really any hidden meanings. He's saying what he's trying to say.
Especially within the narrative as well. It's just like characters like, all right, let's go talk about the meaning of these characters' names. Which, and lesser author, it would seem very pretentious for like, all right, let's go spell out the theme to make sure you get it over couple pages like this entire conversation, but for some reason it just really works.
Yeah.
Uh, I I don't know if it breaks the rules of like being a writer, but whatever rules that he broke them very well because there's a lot of scenery, talking about landscapes and all that, and for some reason I was just so captivated by it. Using biblical allegories is probably a fine line between pretentious and something that you should be that garners respect. He really straddles that line, and it really works. It almost works as a soap opera at times and a crime procedural with everything with Kathy, which, even though the theme, we'll get to the themes later, about the duality, not the duality, man, but like mankind's willing choice of free will to commit evil and also in the face of good. And there's Kathy who sees good but just chooses to do evil over and over again. Like she's almost one dimensional in that. Um, the characters, they have depth, but they're not very nuanced, I would say, which it works for some reason.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it kind of adds to a this like biblical holy feeling in the novel
Yeah.
that these characters are very of one mind about things typically. Even when they grow, it feels like Adam grows in his relationship with his family and his feelings about Kathy, but I won't lie, it felt like he could backslide at any moment back to where he was before. At times, it felt like he was changed and he was doing better, but not in a way that I felt was definitely permanent. It could have been, but not definitely
Mhm.
so. I also do want to add. You said something about in the hands of a lesser author. We talked a little bit about kind of the legacy of this book. I think after having read this and many other Steinbeck novels and novellas, he is certainly like at worst a top 5 American author, probably even better than that, possibly
Mhm.
in contention for greatest American author. He cared about Americans and the U.S. and he was very much a kind of a folksy author for who he
Mhm.
was. Um, and um, I think that there is a kindness that he gets across in a lot of his work and a
Mhm.
hopefulness that he gets across in a lot of his work that
Yes.
feels not only good to read and fits well with his themes, but also feels very American.
Mhm.
Um, this not to say there's no distaste, but it always feels like there's a hope. Um,
Yeah. He's critiquing America, but like kind of celebrating mankind, maybe the human spirit,
yeah.
resilience,
Hmm.
something along those lines. And family too. Family is always a theme with his books. I think.
A
And
lot
the
of the
thread of
time.
tragedy. Yeah,
And it's not always real family. Sometimes it's even
found
found
family.
family. Yeah.
Yeah. Um.
Anyways, we got off track there. I just wanted to because we talked a little bit about the legacy of the book, but I mean, with such a big name as Steinbeck, I feel like we
Yeah.
maybe needed to backtrack for a second and
Yeah.
talk about the legacy of the man himself.
Yeah. Steinbeck. Uh. What is it? At he won a Nobel Prize for literature, or but people didn't think it was warranted. Steinbeck himself didn't think it was warranted. It was almost, I don't know what book he won it for, but it was kind of almost like a pity prize because critics kept on saying, he doesn't deserve it. Which surprisingly, critics did not like East of Eden very much. They didn't like it for a lot of the reasons that we love it for. Um, it being very blunt, overlong, which this book could be longer. Who cares? Um, and just like how slow paced it is, which I think is all to the book's benefits. But I think why this book struck a chord with the public audience who liked it a lot more than critics. It's because it's almost like a soap opera in a way, where there's so much going on in every single page. It's very dense, but not very that talks down to the audience. It's still entertaining to read, because it's very universal and it's not talking down to the audience. It's always entertaining in a way that isn't lowbrow, if that makes sense. It makes the he doesn't use very pretentious language. It's not very purple, but like he will spend lots of pages describing scenery. It's it's riding the line between commercial and being being good, great,
Mhm.
amazing literature.
Yeah. I think also, uh, especially in the U.S., it probably got picked up for its biblical nature by a lot of the public. Like, and not to say, um, it this book feels like it kind of has a weird relationship with Christianity and the
Mm.
Bible because of who John Steinbeck is.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it is also, a retelling of Cain and Abel
Cain
at
and Abel
times, and just
at
a
times.
oh, at times, and it is also just um a book enshrining the choice to do good in like, essentially, I don't like using this word because it feels like some people have co-opted it a little bit, but in like a Judeo-Christian society,
Mm-hmm.
because the word, which we'll get to, that they use for, essentially, people can choose to do whatever, is a Hebrew word.
Mm-hmm.
So uh I think overall that's probably another reason why the public might have taken a shine to it, because Christianity, like I said, in America has been historically pretty important
Mm-hmm.
for good and bad reasons.
It's woven into the identity of America.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I think we should say the word, and if you want to say it with me, come on, everyone, say it with me. Three, two, one. Tim Shell.
Tim Shell.
Just say it with me. Whatever. Okay. But there's this conversation that happens right before what is it? Who names? Why can't I name? Sam names kids? Or
Samuel.
yeah,
But right before Adam names his kids, he's talking with Samuel. Yeah.
yeah. Um, they talk about talking to the best character of all time, Lee. Uh, we'll dive into Lee a little bit later, but basically they're talking about. I think Sam doesn't talk about. He didn't name his two children that he has, and Lee is like, you got to give them a name, so he names them after Cain and Abel, but kind of slanted in a way, if I remember correctly.
Um. Yes, we. It has been a while. Um.
It's Caleb and Aaron were the
Caleb and
names
Aaron. Yes. Yep. Aaron with one R.
with one A.
With one A. True.
Aaron. Yeah,
You're right.
get rid of
Aaron.
the
Yes.
X-ray.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. So Tim Shell, essentially, they're trying to figure out exactly what it means, from the original Hebrew, because obviously these are all English speakers, so it's whatever translations they've come across. And I believe it's Lee who says that the translation that he heard, that he finds most intriguing, or I forget exact, he likes it, basically, is what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say, is the translation he heard that he likes the most is "thou mayest," um which is, it suggests that people have the ability to, not only just choose good, but choose good in a way that overcomes sin and evil. Um, it's like the ultimate enshrinement of free will, that in times or places or situations of immense evil, humans have the free will and the ability to choose good. Thou
Mhm.
mayest choose good. Not that you can, um, not that you can, not that.
That
I'll just
you're
stop there, I
destined
guess.
to. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, not that you can, not that you're destined to, yes, but that you may choose good.
yeah.
That you have the ability to, and
Overcome.
you may choose it yourself to
Yeah,
overcome evil.
yeah, and I think again, Steinbeck wasn't being exactly subtle here, but every character with a C is just possibly a little bit problematic. Um, I think probably the most pivotal character here that's not even related to the Trask or the Hamilton family is Kathy, um, who she,
Well, not
she
related to the Trask family. Uh,
yeah, I don't think she's biologically related. I think she's just within the vicinity, right? And it just causes chaos. Oh wait,
yeah,
it's a mother. Yeah. Oh
she's the mom.
yeah. Huh.
I mean,
Well, yeah,
technically, like Adam might not even be the father is the thing. So
that is
like
true.
that's alluded to, that's possible that he's not the father.
Oh
But
yeah, because
Kathy is definitely related to the Trask
yeah,
family for sure.
yeah, you got that right.
Yeah.
But Kathy, is this, at first glance she's a surprise. She's a one-dimensional character. She's pretty flat, as in she's a monster. Really, she's like Anton Chigurh if Anton Chigurh was a woman or a little
Hmm.
girl. Really, because at the beginning, she causes a lot of death and misery around her. She causes two children to be wrongly accused of the R word. Right, I think something like that.
I believe so. I don't know if they're, yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
I
and
I
then
do remember. I will say the Kathy sections are, especially her first few sections are pretty engrossing actually.
yeah,
In terms of like, because it's a complete change of pace, because you're following Adam and his brother in the
it's a
beginning,
hard
and then
detour.
all of a sudden, like, you open to the next chapter and it's like, and Kathy, like, yeah,
I
but
the
yeah,
way that it was described was that like she has all the features of a woman, but she doesn't really have a mother. So I don't know if Steinbeck kind of leading into that, like a person without their mother is going to be kind of immoral. Um, but basically, she's responsible for a lot of misery. She causes a school teacher of hers to essentially um, die by suicide. She manipulates a lot of people. Um, she was just born without morals, and she recognizes it, which is kind of the tragic part. It's surprising how Steinbeck kind of imbues some humanity in her. At moments, it's not like she's nice all of a sudden, but like you can tell that there's something missing. Because a girl that kind of murders her own parents via arson and then becomes a prostitute, um, it's not bound to be a good person. Um, but she's given some humanity um, in the story, which is kind of interesting. It
yeah.
doesn't forgive her actions, obviously, but it kind of explains or kind of just goes along with it. Because I remember Cyrus, like the first C name,
Hmm.
he nearly kills his brother, but it kind of moved past that. And I'm like, oh, and it kind of redeems himself semi, but not really. I forget.
Yeah, Charles, I believe.
Yeah,
Um, he He also, which will, I kind of want to say a few things about that. Charles also, I think, there's a sign of him continuing to be evil. Is that uh, he just collects and collects and collects money. Um, So like Samuel's son, the capitalist one, is kind of the same way, and they're not framed as outright evil, but they what is Samuel? Is it Will? Will's the capitalist son? Will Hamilton?
I believe,
Samuel has a bunch of kids.
yeah, and
Yeah.
they all get their spot in the limelight. Like, not all of them are important, but they all get their moments where
Yeah.
they feel like full
Um
characters, but they're just kind of yeeted out.
Will, for instance, like he takes advantage of people. So he has these flaws, and he also becomes wealthy. Whereas Samuel and people like Samuel who don't really care about money, they are often framed as pretty much like ultimately good,
Mhm.
extremely good. So
Paradox.
Charles very early on tries to kill Adam when they're younger because their father likes Adam's gift more, which is a parallel to the Cain and Abel story.
Mhm.
Um, he tries to kill him, and so that's a sign that there's uh, something wrong with him, that he gives in to evil, something of that nature. But um, he's not completely outright evil, but a sign that he never lets go. I think money is used as a sign that they don't really let go of it in a way.
Mhm. I to add to
Um,
that,
mhm.
what is it? So the movie, not the movie, the money that they have is kind of cursed because Cyrus gets it. He lies about his heroics in the Civil War, and he somehow gets $100,000 and has a fortune, leaves it to his son, but he lies about it. So it's kind of a cursed inheritance. So that
Yeah,
could add to your thesis right there.
yeah. Well, and they both get it, and Charles just sits on it basically. I think any money that he spends is to get more land to continue making more money to just sit on,
Mhm.
if I'm not mistaken. Uh, and then Kathy, like we were talking about how she's kind of humanized in a way. Um, yeah, it's framed as if something is missing, that the reason why she does basically nothing but evil is because she can't see or understand good. She has an inability to do so.
Mhm.
Um, I would say I would say Kathy and Adam are probably the most complex characters in the book, because they are foils to one another, in that Kathy is ultimately evil because she can't see good, and several times, um, I don't know if it's just Lee or if it's Lee and some other characters, but it is stated on, I think, on more than one occasion, that the problem with Adam is that he can't see evil, which is why he
Mhm.
falls in love with Kathy, and they supposedly have children together, because
Mhm.
he can't see evil, um, and so they're yeah.
Oh no, yeah, just can't comprehend evil, I guess, is probably
Yeah, yeah.
another way of
Well,
putting it.
definitely with Kathy, it appears that he can't even see it. Um,
Mhm. Kinda
because
allows it to happen. He gets shot and goes like, he
oh
lies to the
well,
cops about it. "Oh,
yeah.
oops, my bad."
Um, and I
But he
say
forgives
most
his brother
complex
fast too,
because
sorry.
I say most complex. I think because they have these like face downs where Adam does finally see Kathy for what she is, and he stands up to her pretty much.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Way later in his life.
way later in his life, yeah, after he's done a lot of growing. Um, but yeah, that's what I thought of when you brought up Charles and Kathy. And I think also maybe we should speak on just good and evil,
Mm,
more broadly. Obviously, there's the biblical allusions in the book.
yeah.
Um, there
Kathy
are
represents
Kathy.
evil. Who
Uh,
would have
b-
thought? But
But
That's
I think also in this discussion of good and evil, I think we have to bring up Kathy's sons, the Trask boys, um, Cal and Aaron. They are both kind of complex together complex. Alone I don't think they're very complex, but together they're kind of complex in the fact that they are this duality of good and evil. Um was there anything striking for you about the Trask boys?
um Trask. Are these yeah. So the Trask family, they throughout generations, they get kind of cursed to kind of repeat the cycle of Cain and Abel in some way, I believe. I think the two generations that we mainly focus on, Aaron and Adam.
Right. But the Trask boys, Aaron and is it Caleb? Am I going crazy?
Cal.
Um Cal. Yeah, Aaron and Cal. They they kind of embody it in a strange way. It's this is not something that I actually I think it's hard to see because Aaron, I believe it's Aaron. No, it's Cal. Aaron is the one. Aaron goes off to college, right? Aaron is Adam's favorite.
Yeah, the one that goes to Stanford. Yeah.
Yeah. Cal, right? He they do kind of repeat this Cain and Abel thing where towards the end of the book, Cal tries to give um their father a gift, and the gift is like money that he
Yeah.
made working with Will.
Immorally. Yeah.
Yeah, taking advantage of people pretty much.
Of the war, I believe.
Right.
Right.
Well, it was Bean. It was like Bean Futures or something. They
Yeah.
made like a profit off of. They paid the farmers what they would have made regardless, and then they made a profit on the future price
Mhm.
of beans later, um, or something like that. But he tries to give this gift to his dad, and his dad like hates it. His dad is all about uh Aaron, who is kind of kind of imperfectly good in a way. Like he Aaron was kind of a hard character for me because it feels like he's trying to be like extremely good, right?
Mhm.
Like he gets involved with the church. He follows what his dad wants and he goes off to college. He is trying to wait until marriage, even though he kind of gets a girlfriend, right?
Abra. Liam
Yeah,
really adores.
yeah. Um, and so he's Aaron's kind of a difficult character for me because he's clearly trying very hard to be good, like morally,
Mhm.
ethically. But he falls into these pitfalls. They're like accidental, and he seemingly feels really bad about it at times. Um, like he goes off to college and he starts all of a sudden maybe he doesn't want to wait until marriage, you know.
Mhm.
Um, he kind of gives into his nature as like a human, I guess. Um, but I think that the dichotomy there is that Cal is willing to do things that we're supposed to see as evil or bad in some way, that he is um like he wanted to do the Bean Futures thing. He wanted to make some extra money.
Mhm.
Um he wanted to do those things. Um and he wanted that to be his gift to his father, like Aaron's going off to college. Um and his father shuns that which leads to what happens at the end, where they fulfill the prophecy of Cain and Abel, pretty much
Yeah, inadvertently in a way. Um,
inadvertently. Yeah,
yeah. Cal kind of upset. What is it? He tells Aaron that the identity of Kathy, who was a prostitute, and he gets so upset that he fights in the Great War at the time, and he
yeah,
dies.
yes.
So that fulfills the prophecy of him accidentally killing purposely his brother, and he
It
feels racked up about guilt about it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's like the him showing Aaron Kathy, telling him this is our mother. It's like cursed knowledge almost, which obviously has like biblical a biblical interpretation there.
Mhm.
Um it is also kind of almost showing Cal the existence of this ultimate evil and showing him that they are, and if they, then humanity is related to it. This instance of pure evil in the world, um, in Kathy, and so I don't know. This is like we said. I don't know. We said it was very on the nose, and it still is. But I think a part of what I like about East of Eden, part of what I really like about East of Eden, is there still is a lot of depth here.
Mhm.
I feel like if you wanted to, you could talk for a long time about what I think Cal and Aaron are where the most complexity comes
Yeah.
into the meaning, and their relationships and influences from their parents and the people around them.
Mhm.
Um, and so, yeah, like I said, it's almost like showing this person who is ultimately trying to be good, but failing somewhat to some extent.
Mhm.
Or well, they're both kind of trying to be good, to be honest, and they're both
They're
failing.
human. Yeah.
Um, um, that they are related to this ultimate evil, and by extension, we all are.
Mhm.
Um, and Aaron goes and gets himself killed over it. He like can't handle it. He has to go do something. Um, I don't know. Like again. I think that that's probably the most complex part of the meaning. And maybe we should have talked about some other stuff first, but I felt like it
Yeah.
naturally flowed.
Yeah. No, we're just feeling it out here. We didn't even talk about Abra. We didn't even talk about Lee. We've alluded to the fact that they are Lee is probably the best character, which especially for the time, I, this is the time where there's not great representation for Chinese Americans or Chinese characters at all. And here we have a character like, I mean, we kind of had it spoiled by Luke, but basically there's this Chinese character that spoke in very pidgin, I think, just like
Was
very
pigeon.
racial pigeon, pigeon, yeah,
I thought
um,
so.
yeah. He could speak to birds apparently. Um, it was just this very antiquated Asian language, which I didn't know when he dropped the accent or dropped the broken English, but then it starts to really slowly unveil once Sam Hamilton kind of takes him in and starts to really converse with him, and you get to hear his intelligence and how much he philosophizes about like everyday things. Hear about his backstory, where his parents both worked at the railroad. Unfortunately, his mother was killed. But duality of man, even though she was horribly and brutally attacked, and I think it described Lee like the baby crawling out of the mom's womb. The railroad workers felt bad enough and took care of him in a way that kind of makes him too American to be Chinese and too Chinese to be American. So he kind of resorts to just being by himself at the Hamilton Ranch, and just kind of. I'm assuming that he reads a lot alone, and that's how he's just so intelligent and poignant, and it's very arguable that he could be the best character in the entire book, really, because he's just
Yeah.
this one constant good in their lives
Hmm.
um, who kind of guides them in a way, kind of raises the children. And I think even it said without judgment that why don't you teach the kids Chinese? Which I don't know if that would have been very controversial at the time, but I'm
Yeah.
assuming probably not. Probably, yeah. Sorry.
And I think also, we might look back on it, and it's in our modern landscape, there's kind of this trope of like the sage like older black person in the lives of a white main character.
Yeah,
But that's kind of what I think it might call to mind for some people. But I think in this case, it's not really like that because it's not become a trope. I think at this point it's just good representation, especially
yeah,
with how Chinese people had been looked at for the majority
yeah.
of Steinbeck's life to that point.
It's very
Um,
empathetic.
right, right, exactly. Um, I
And
think I think I think the trope that again that might call to mind for some people is pushing those people to the side for the main character, and in this case, I think Steinbeck is really lifting um,
yeah,
people like Lee up.
yeah, and it's even talking about code switching at a time where that probably wasn't even a thing, or
True.
even a well researched thing, where basically just
Right.
depending on who's around, he resorts to an accent and different words. But really, he is just an intelligent guy. I mean, Steinbeck isn't very perfect with his with race relations. That
No.
prologue where it describes the Indians, probably not the best aged passage. But it's brief enough that makes me go, okay, bad, but whatever. And there's that one character that is named after a slur that we cannot repeat,
Mhm.
but
He
that character,
he's 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 imperfect, but Steinbeck is so clearly to me empathetic in his
yeah,
writing that he tries in a time where he could have gotten away with not trying.
yeah,
Um, I think Lee has a claim to best character. I think also Samuel Hamilton has a claim
mhm,
to best
yeah,
character in the novel. Samuel Hamilton honestly like makes me feel good inside whenever he like
yeah,
talks. He's just very, he's an old man. He doesn't care that much about his prosperity as long as he can provide for his family and he can get by. He's like well read, and he just basically lives a fulfilling life, even if he's not as successful as he might have been had he gotten luckier with what land he was appropriated for having that many children. Um, I have a whiteboard in my room where I write quotes from stuff that I'm reading, and I have a quote from Samuel Hamilton written on it right now.
whatever.
Um, you're too young a man to be panning memories. You should be getting yourself some new ones so that the meaning will be richer when you come to age. Samuel Hamilton. Um, I could have read that better, but I was like craning my neck to
Yeah,
read it while but he has a bunch of things like that. He's like a sage old Irishman who has some really good advice for just leading a fulfilling life. Basically, you don't need a whole lot to be fulfilled. You just you need to get by, and
mhm.
you need to make an effort in the lives of the people that are close to you, and a few other things. But
Yeah.
he
No, this book is full of so many great quotes.
yeah, he's a wonderful character who makes me
Yeah.
feel good inside. That old Irishman.
Yeah, and when he died, oh man,
Yeah.
that was just like that was sad. It was natural, but oh,
It was
really,
sad because it feels so bittersweet because he's so clearly like okay with it. Like he's like my
yeah,
time. You can tell he's like my time has come. I'm an old man.
hmm
I'm gonna leave this place, and once I've left and I go around and see some of my family, that's it.
hmm and I love the passage where they talk about Samuel's death. And I again, Steinbeck is pretty blunt with everything, but he shows restraint. I think I don't have the passage, and I wish I saved the page number, but I think someone just reads the date, time, in the name, and they fold up the image. Then they go home and then they hang up all their clothes. They hang up the black suit and everything, and he just walks to the bed. He lays down and just stares at a wall, and that just floored me for some reason because Steinbeck doesn't need to tell you how to feel. He tells you what to think, but not how to feel. And I was just, ugh, that hit me.
And it's such a realistic kind of grief, like just a numbness almost. That the I it was Tom, right? Tom Hamilton, I believe.
Yeah,
Um, when he goes back to the farm, or well, farm,
yeah,
the piece of land that that his dad has
yeah,
or had, and
yeah,
he's clearly just numb to it all at this point.
mhm,
Um,
yeah. And I also really like how Steinbeck wrote all these children in a way that kind of makes them feel like very realistic characters, even though you barely even know them per page. I mean, they get their chapter, maybe a couple chapters, maybe a couple mentions, but they're not really the focus because I think we focus more on the Trasks because they're the Cain and
mhm.
Abel story. And
Yeah,
the Hamiltons, I believe, were based off of Steinbeck's family friends or family. 'Cause Steinbeck appears very briefly in the book.
yeah.
I don't know if you're aware of that. Yeah, um, which is funny. Is Steinbeck the narrator? I think so.
I think the Hamiltons in general are wonderful because they feel I think they're wonderfully written because they all feel unique, but you also can you wouldn't I feel like you wouldn't have to be told directly that they're siblings to know. Like you can tell you can feel that they're siblings in the ways that they interact with each other and the way that they are, even though that they all kind of have their own things going on. Um, it's kind of masterful in a way that
Mhm.
he wrote that many characters in that family that just
Yeah,
mesh together so well.
yeah.
And they're
Um,
not even the focus of the book.
yeah, that's a true story. I don't do they tie in thematically? I, I don't know. Possibly, maybe.
Slightly,
I wouldn't
yeah,
discount it.
well, right. Well, because Sam is, I think it's all it all kind of ties back into the good and evil thing. Samuel is kind of this like I talked about how he didn't need much to be fulfilled. That's supposed to be a sign that he is good.
Mhm,
And Will, the capitalist son who makes money,
mhm,
is kind of I mean, they love him because he's family, but he's
mhm,
different from the rest of them. Um, in a way that, if I'm remembering correctly, kind of confuses Samuel.
mhm.
Like he's not really sure what to make of it, but obviously he's his son, so he just
Yeah.
loves him anyways.
Hmm. There was that one chapter. I don't remember. I don't know if you remember the one where basically I think it was Tom. Oh yeah, Tom and Desi. So
Hmm.
Tom, I think Desi comes home with like a stomach ache, and then
Yes.
Tom could have brought her to a doctor, but she's like, no, just drink this, and he gives her a bunch of salts, and that just makes her even more sick, and I think it leads to her death, and then Tom dies at suicide, implied suicide,
Yeah.
and that was pretty tragic.
Yeah.
That-
It is. Um, and I think it's like there's a lot of focus put on the actions of people and
yeah.
the want to do good while doing bad, and the in Kathy's case, the want to do evil, um the things that we choose and the imperfect our imperfect abilities to get
Mhm.
there, which again ties back into thou mayest,
Yeah.
Yeah, we can try, we can want to, but it doesn't mean that we're always going to get there because we may. We're
Man.
not. It's not guaranteed, even if it's something that you desire.
Actually, okay. And now we can actually talk about the ending, Tim Shell, because at the end, Lee kind of brings a guilt-ridden Cal to after all the events of him inadvertently causing his father's uh, uh, his son no, his brother's death and his father to have a stroke out of grief.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he almost immediately he 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 makes up with Abra, right? I believe I'm trying to remember this correctly.
Yeah.
And Abra can kind of see him for who he is because Aaron
Mm.
kind of puts up a front, but Abra's kind of put off by that, and Abra comes up to Cal, and they agree to start dating, and then they like each other more, even though Aaron was the favored son, but he still feels guilt, and I think Abra even feels some guilt because he kind of tempted Aaron to find out the identity, but I don't think he believed it or something like that. The identity of the mother, I don't remember. Um, but they basically go to the deathbed, and Lee, after hearing Cal, goes to the deathbed of Aaron, Adam,
Adam.
and immediately goes, Adam, your son, he did all this terrible stuff. Do you forgive him? And the last words of Adam are, Timdell. Which I don't know. When I read that, I felt like there was thunder striking when he said that. It was just this loud boom. I'm like, whoa, that sent chills. It was such a powerful last penultimate sentence. I know it wasn't the very last sentence, but that's the sentence that kind of leaves an impact there.
Mm.
And I think that was just Adam breaking the curse. You can now choose to be a good person, and I think Lee even sums it up beautifully with when he said to Abra, "Now that you know you don't have to be perfect, you can focus on being good," which banger phrase right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Um. and I was gonna bring back up uh Cal's kind of internal battle with wanting to do good while also um the having the desire to do evil,
Temptations.
the temptation to do evil. Um so when he comes to his father and his father s- I, I would say it's forgiveness in a way, even though the death of Aaron is definitely killing the father, killing Adam.
Hmm.
His father comes to him and he forgives him. Um, Again, like you said, now that you know you don't have to be perfect, you can focus on being good. Um, yeah, he did bad and evil, and it was
Hmm.
sort of indirectly his fault that his brother died. But Cal can go on to choose to do better.
Hmm.
He's not defined by everything that he's done before
Hmm.
now.
Not defined by Kathy either, or
Nope.
Kathy's genes, evil
You
genes.
you're it does yeah, the sense of identity I think is a big thing for
Hmm.
Cal especially, is where it really comes up. The idea that he is um when he finds out about Kathy, doesn't he is I'm trying to remember. I can't remember a specific passage, but
They
I
meet
think
in person once, I think. Right?
yeah.
Right? Follows her around town.
Right. Well, I was thinking, does he think at any point that he is the way he is, he has the desires he does because of his relationship to Kathy? Because he knows that she's his mom? I can't
Ooh, that
remember.
I can't remember either.
Yeah.
So moving on.
I I feel like it would make sense, but I don't wanna say it without, remembering for a fact that that happened.
We're not slandering
But,
Steinbeck here.
um, but yes, Cal in particular, is kind of he gets a lot of the focus in the latter part of the book,
Hmm.
in the last few, the last bit, because he, um I feel like most of the characters, in a way, are supposed to be representations of all of us in one way
Mhm.
or another. And Cal, especially towards the end, there is a representation of all of us in that he has this relationship to both good and evil
Mhm.
directly in his case. And even he, after doing something um, pretty bad, even indirectly, uh, can go on to do good. And in the same way we can.
Yeah. Want to talk about Kathy real quick? I mean, I think we've said most of the things we needed to say about her. About her choosing to be good, choosing to be evil, in spite of having the sense that something's missing. Um, I and then her once she is not able to even comprehend Adam's choice not to give her money, she kind of goes insane a bit. Um, there's also that. I'm trying to remember. Oh, I
Yeah,
there was this one. Remember that scene where she kind of has a surrogate mom. It goes like, I love what you're doing with this place. I know that you are a hard worker. That's why I'm giving you this brothel. I'm allowing you to just inherit this from me." And she goes, "Ha, take that," and basically just becomes all evil. Starts secretly poisoning her until she goes insane, I believe, and then I guess just completely rejects love because everybody's scared of her. I think she's kind of cruel to all of the prostitutes that are in there. Um, she's not a good person. I don't know if that's gonna tie in to anything thematically. I just thought that was kind of worth mentioning because she is just such a hard departure from everything that we just
mhm.
said. The opposite of Tim Shell. She chooses to do evil in spite of all the kindness. And even then, there are characters that just choose to empathize with her and understand her, and she just doesn't go with it.
I I think that there's I think the one thing that is I think probably the second most complex thing in terms of like meaning
Hmm.
in this book is probably Kathy, and the fact that she literally doesn't seem to be able to understand goodness
Hmm.
at
Yeah.
times. Like I don't know, pretty most of the characters seem to understand both good and evil, and they want to do good, and but it's not that Kathy understands both and chooses to do evil. She seemingly doesn't understand anything good
Yeah.
at all. um
Yeah.
Everything is a step up for her. Everything is
And she
something that she
chooses
can
it really.
use, and she chooses it.
Yeah.
um I don't know. I think I think the reason why I say I think it's complex is because um in a way it it feels like Steinbeck is trying to say something which I agree with and I believe in, which is that like we're all human, right? We all can choose to do good, and most people want to do good, and
Hmm.
they happen to do evil. They choose
Hmm.
evil because of desire or
Hmm.
temptation or whatever. But Kathy is it feels not deserving of that
Hmm.
mantra, um, because of something inherent to her that she
Hmm.
literally again it feels like she literally doesn't understand goodness,
Yeah.
um, and yet Steinbeck almost appears to be saying that we're supposed to give her that interpretation anyways, that humanist interpretation
Hmm.
um, that we're supposed to understand her and understand
Yeah.
why she does what she does, even
Hmm.
though she is
Not
kind of
excused.
yeah she's not again it almost feels like she's not worthy of it in a way.
Yeah.
I think if you were, but Steinbeck says no, she is
Hmm.
still worthy of kind of this benefit of the doubt, I guess.
Yeah, she gets a pretty humane death
Mm-hmm.
too. Yeah, what is it? She becomes very delusional. I don't know if she takes a pill before or after, but she starts wondering about Alice in Wonderland. And starts having delusions about that, and she wants to imitate Alice by becoming smaller. So she takes a few drops of cyanide, I believe, and then she dies peacefully. And it
Mm-hmm.
feels wanted because I think just right before that, she kind of sends another character to their death, but the one that quote unquote deserves it. I don't think this person's given any redeeming features. Joe Valerie. Um, so Joe kind of just gets control over it, over the brothel, and basically Kathy kind of brings him to justice by informing the police, and Joe gets caught and he tries to run away and gets shot. So maybe he I don't think there was any reason for him to die a cruel death, so he kind of gets a quote unquote justified death. It wasn't too dramatic. It's a death that he caused himself. So I don't know what he's trying to say there, but I feel like that was an interesting point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Again, I think the overall point is very kind of hit you over the head with it, but
Yeah.
there's definitely at least some complexity as you kind of dig into some of these characters, even if the characters themselves are pretty flat, like Kathy. What is the I think the complexity comes from like what does her flatness, what as a
Mhm.
character, what is Steinbeck trying to say by using that? Um,
Exactly. I have nothing else to say about it. This book. We can go on and on. This book is
yes,
600 pages long. And I
we
feel like I'm never gonna give away my copy of this book. I feel like I'm gonna revisit it way later in my life because my life is pretty busy, and I still really enjoyed the book. So
There's definitely other things that we could say too. I feel like we've talked about the most major things, so I don't want to just press on
yeah,
just because we can. Like we didn't really touch that much on the setting, but
and enable like the parallels. So
well
nothing.
the Salinas Valley and stuff,
Yeah,
um but yeah, I think we said all I wanted to say. So
yeah,
um
and I've said everything I wanted to say about it too. There was definitely more to talk about, but
yeah,
you guys have life, and you guys reread this book if you want to. I'll reread.
yeah.
I'll probably check this book out again in a couple of years.
It is a great book. Um Probably Steinbeck's magnum opus. I he's got a lot of great books,
Yeah,
this one is definitely up there. Um so yeah. But if you just to wrap up, unless you have anything else you want to add,
I do not.
okay. Um, you can join us this upcoming month. We're already in it because we're really late with this episode, but this upcoming month we are doing kind of absurd or yeah, absurd
Horror again?
kind of absurd horror again. Join us. We're going to talk about House of Leaves. We're also going to be watching Jacob's Ladder for Off the Books. So you can join us for both of those this upcoming month and in later in July.
Mhm.
Because we're very late with this episode. Uh, and then, yeah, if you liked, please give us a like, rating, subscribe, follow, whatever it is, whatever platform. We appreciate it. It helps us out. You can find us on YouTube now if you still have not yet. It's a
Yeah,
great place to be.
yeah. Please don't leave mean comments again.
Please don't leave mean comments. Yeah, well,
Leave nice comments because that helps with the engagement, and you can also like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, all the good stuff. Just don't be mean.
you can criticize. Just don't be mean.
Okay,
Don't be mean.
please.
Criticism's okay, but healthy criticism. Um. All right. Well, thanks for
Uh,
listening.
yeah, find us on TikTok as well, and if it doesn't get banned, it's our last hurrah, and X or Twitter, some other stuff as well. Oh, and also find us on Goodbye Prometheus.